In this series this year, we're going to be alternating between a lecturer at Carey, opening up a passage of scripture and reflecting on the church through the lens of that passage, and every other week another member of our staff team will be reflecting on their personal experience of church, sort of more in testimonial mode. And it's a real delight to have Reti here doing that this morning. She's going to be talking a little bit about church at its best. That's the brief. And some of these people might not know you, Reti, particularly our first year students. So very quickly, what do you do here? What's your role?
So I support the Māori and Pacifica students. I give them academic and pastoral support, and sometimes I give Pacifica culture advice to the college.
Always done graciously. What's encouraging you? It has been transformative for us as a community, having you do that over these last few years. What's encouraging you in your role at the moment?
The thing that encourages me the most is Carey itself, our bicultural journey. Sandy and the team that run Te Ao Māori and the team that run Te Reo have been a significant part of it, but just the will amongst us at staff level and amongst the students to go on this bicultural journey. So if you came here not thinking that you were going to be doing anything around bicultural, you are so wrong. That's actually the most encouraging thing to me. And because of that journey, we're actually experiencing really great success amongst Māori and Pacifica students as far as our academic progress. And to brag, last semester, the Māori and Pacifica students put out 20% of our grades at an A level plus. So that's pretty massive, like 93 A minuses, A's or A pluses out of 21 or 23 out of 90 something papers we did last semester. So that was phenomenal. Māori students on our campus, phenomenal. They finished at a 97% pass rate for the year. I think 92 or 97.
97 in the first semester.
97 in the first semester, 92 for the year. So they exceeded the college achievement. So that's pretty massive. And then as Māori and Pacifica people together, we came out at an 80% pass rate for the year. And Charles and I were having a chat, so Charles was the guy who had his job before him. And he was saying, so he was saying, we really, do you reckon, this and that? And I said, it's a good year when we're complaining that Māori and Pacifica only hit an 80% pass rate. So lots to be excited about and encouraged about, and just being part of this community, pretty massive, pretty amazing, really.
And outside of your life here, you work as youth pastor?
Yeah, the key youth leader at Mangere Bridge Baptist Church, and I run the young adults there. I have been serving as an elder, and I've been released from that. Those are my main roles inside the church. Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing your story. So can we pray for this? Thank you, Lord, for Reti. Thank you for bringing her into our community, and for the privilege and the joy it is to know her and be working with her as staff and learning from her as students. We ask your blessing on her now as she shares what's in her heart, and she shares something of her story with us. Speak to us, we pray, Holy Spirit.
Amen. Ka whakapaingia ai hoa i te ao, i te pō, te whakamutuinga tu kōrewatia. I will bless the Lord in the day and in the night. I will raise up my hands to give him praise, and I will tell it, and I will tell it, and I will tell it. Tēnā tātou katoa, te me tuatahi ko te mihi atu ki te marawa. I te tuarua ko te mihi atu ki a koe, one, mō tō ingoe ki tō tātou motu te rangi. Tuatoru, ki a koutou te whānau ko huhu mai tēnei haora, kei te hare koa te ngākau ki te kite atu i a koutou. Firstly, my greetings go to our Heavenly Father, kia ora e pā. Then to you, Brother John, for offering our prayer. And then thirdly to us, Carey whānau, for gathering here, and also those who will gather around their laptops or their phones to share this time together. You all make my heart rejoice. Ko malai tama toku manga, ko awhimangirangira toku awa, ko moana nui a kiwa toku moana, ko e New Zealand te waka. Ko ngati hāmoa, ngati hainamana, me ngati kuki e rani ngā iwi, ko whale tamuai, ko aina Māori tōsa ngā muli, ko whānau Chen ngā hapu, ko le tongu toku marae. Ko te hāhei, iri o ngā tapoe o mata oko ki whare karikia, ko moe sama rātou ko Nawo, ko Silia, ko le atu iopu o ku tipuna, ko a mua mea le rawa ko le atu taimi o ku matua, ko ihu kareiti toku kai whakaura, ko Queen Reti Ah Voa ahau. I was born in the beautiful island of Samoa, and my mountain is Malayo Tama. And our river Awhimangirangira runs into the pristine Pacific Ocean. I travelled here like many migrants of the last 50 years, not by waka or by ship, but by airplane, specifically in New Zealand. I am of Samoan, Chinese and Cook Island descent, and my family lines are Māori Tosa Ngāngai Muri, Whale Tamuai and Chen. My place to stand in Samoa is the village of Letomo. That's my family meeting house. Here I worship at Mangere Bridge Baptist Church, as I mentioned earlier. And in New Zealand, my maunga is Māngere Mountain, and my awa is the whānga of Manukau Harbour. Manukau Harbour. My parents are whanua a mua mea li'i, and le atu Reti Ah Voa, and I am the 6th of their 9 children, and auntie to their 12 grandchildren, as well as their 9 great-grandchildren. So, my name is Reti. This week I'm going to be sharing with you, as John said, about some of my church, some of the stories of when I found the church at its best. But firstly, let's pray. Lea tua mātou tamaka i ai, mātou te whaene e lo suafa, mātou te si ia me vi ia lo suafa, mātou e tua pa ia. Mātou te tau sa mātou, tamai, so mai whaalata mai ate i mātou nene tangi, a meisi i a lo au ona. Wha tumuina, tātou wā. Ia mātou longa o e sila fia o e iu whaatasi mai na mātou nene tangi. I swafa Jesu Christ. Amen. Psalm 133 reads, "How good and pleasant it is when the kindred live together in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down upon the beard of Aaron, running down over the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord ordained his peace, life forevermore." The church for me is at its best when it is a place of belonging, a place of welcome, a place of being yourself, a place of acceptance, a place I can call my spiritual home. As I said earlier, I'm a migrant. My family moved here when I was 2 years old. 90% of my family on my dad's side are Catholic, so I was raised Catholic. In our parish, St. Therese in Mangere, we had an active Samoan community, Tongan community, and Cook Islands community within our larger congregation. We took turns running service each month alongside our Sunday morning mass, spoken usually in English. I've always felt fully embraced as a Samoan. We used our own language, we dressed in our own traditional dress, and all the parish participated in the services, irrespective of which community led or which language was spoken or sung. Our church events and fundraisers all had elements and contributions from each ethnic community. Over the years, the Samoan symbols and expressions used in worship have increased, and wearing our traditional formal wear has become far more common. It's a delight to see and be amongst them. I've always felt I belong, and even now when I visit our old family church, I'm still welcomed by those I grew up with. Unfortunately, I know that not everyone has had this experience. Many migrant believers and others feel that they must lay aside the ethnic culture in order to be Christian or to be more Christian. But church for me has always been at its best when I feel I belong or can belong to the community in the fullness of who I am. This is why I'm also delighted when I see little children new to the church growing confidence among us. I remember George's grandson Lawrence. After some weeks of attending our church, their family had moved to Auckland from Christchurch. The week I saw him running in and out of church between children's program and his parents, much to his parents' distress, but to my delight. I could see he was at home. Or my own then 7-year-old nephew Tyrell, after attending church for some months, arriving late, being dropped off by his mother, running right past where we sat to get to a Sunday school class. Okay then, it's not about us, it's not about him. What mattered was he obviously felt at home. He knew he belonged. I studied here at Carey in 2004. My claim to fame is that I graduated with Sam Kilpatrick, Jada, and Andrew Pickard, and some other fine folk. It was Nearly's first year as academic registrar, and I came to here to complete a graduate diploma as I prepared to go out to missions in the Middle East. About that time, I'd been in talks with my church about sending and supporting me as a missionary for about 4 years, ever since I'd come back from my first short-term mission trip and received my call to go out as a career missionary. However, in October of that year, while I was studying here at Carey, our church closed and we were disbanded. I was in shock and dismay. I was due to leave for the Middle East the following year, and now I didn't even have a home church to send me. So in October, I started a church hunting process, trying to find a church home and a church who would send me. After visiting a number of churches, I returned to Mangere Bridge Baptist, where I had worshipped for nearly a year in 2000. When I returned to that small congregation, there was still a good number of folk who remembered me from before. And so it wasn't long before I was ministering amongst them in prayer and on the worship team, and also helping to launch our mainly music ministry. When I met with Pastor Jack Zutenbier, who coincidentally is the principal at Alfred Crucis over the way there, he explained to him my situation and asked them, would they consider being my sending church? His resounding response was, absolutely. Wow. We had this conversation in March, and 3 months later, I left for Jordan. Mangere Bridge embraced me. It became the place I belonged, and they were my sending church to the Middle East. When I left for the Middle East after 40 months in Jordan learning Arabic language and experiencing cultural immersion, I relocated to Larnaca, Cyprus. Larnaca was where our international headquarters were, and I went there to take up the human resource manager's role for our agency. There, I attended a church plant that had been started by missionaries from the foundations of the Greek Evangelical Church. That church is called Larnaca Community Church. I relocated to Cyprus in September 2006. The following year on my birthday, a couple from the church who hadn't even been introduced me gave me a birthday present, and then an Easter present, and then a Christmas one. Faithfully, they would give me a small gift at each of those markers for the next 5 years. After the first time they gave me a gift, I asked Angela and Neil, why? They said they remembered what it was like to be an older single person, and so they wanted to show me that care as a single woman in a foreign country. They knew I was far from my family and friends. They also extended me hospitality and would invite me to their home or for meals out from time to time. They are so precious. Angela and Neil sure helped me to feel like I belonged, that someone had noticed, and that someone cared. While I was in Cyprus, I turned 40. Coming up to that milestone, I didn't want to tell anyone. I wanted to hide my coming of age, a bit of vanity really. Most people hadn't realised I was over 35. I was the main youth leader and did crazy things, jumping in pools, warming clothes on and rolling around on the floor as you do. So no one noticed, or no one placed me at the cusp of turning 40. Really, I didn't want to mark my birthday. Not solely because of the number, but specifically because I was still single. I lay there thinking, if I was at home, my singleness would be swallowed up. Amongst my large, immediate and extended family, my singleness would be minimized. But I was not at home. I was on the opposite side of the world. There my singleness was pronounced, as if it was followed by the exclamation mark. There in Cyprus, I was alone. My cousin, who was nursing in Kuwait at the time, knew my struggle. So a couple of weeks before my birthday, she sent for me an early birthday present, a ticket to Kuwait, and then she took me to Dubai, and then we visited Al Ain and Abu Dhabi. She helped me run away to celebrate my birthday in secret. One morning after I returned to Cyprus, it was still before my birthday, and I woke with this thought. I believe it was the Spirit that spoke to me saying, even if I didn't want to celebrate the number, shouldn't I celebrate all of God's goodness that I had been blessed with in those years? It was a sobering and humbling thought. I agreed. God had given me an amazing life, one that I was truly grateful for, and had been blessed to live a unique life. His blessings were definitely worth celebrating. So I set about organising and hosting a small celebration for about 20 guests, including the elders of the church and the other youth leaders and a few friends. And then I told them my story, that of not wanting to celebrate because I was away from my family, and indeed I had run away. I omitted that small detail of the number though, still that vanity. The following week, the ministry areas I was involved with, international students, youth, and the main church service, all marked my birthday in some way. They reminded me in word and in action that they were my family in that faraway land. I belonged to them, with them and among them. Their love swallowed up my singleness. The church is indeed at its best for me when it's been a place of belonging, a place of being myself, a place of acceptance, a place in which I feel at home. The church is also at its best when her or our focus is in giving, not receiving. When she is the place for us to bring our worship and a place to give to our communities. I'm a firm believer that the Sunday morning service is not primarily a place to come to receive service. Whether it's a service from the worship team, the preacher, the prayer team, the kitchen team, the kids ministry team. But rather it's a place for us to bring our service to God and service to one another. The church is at her best when she's a place of service, and the communities in which our churches are situated benefit from our presence. It's been over 7 years now since the Arab Spring began. We are less confronted by the plight of Syrian refugees and their communities torn apart by mostly civil war and a three-way trifecta between government forces, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, as well as government forces, ISIS and rebel forces, and the complicated matrix of support from Russia, Iran and Al-Qaeda, as well as the covert weavings of the American government and other players. The images of the ravaged cities of Syria and the dead bodies of Syrian men and women and children strewn across streets and in buildings are not so present now in our news feeds. They don't get so much media attention now. But near the beginning of that fighting in June of 2013, I visited a northern town in Jordan called Mafraq. I went to visit colleagues who were helping with refugees who had fled Syria to Jordan and their southern border. I was due to lead a short-term team in Amman, so I went to see what opportunities there were for my team to support our colleagues working amongst refugees an hour or so north of the capital. I visited Mafraq just after the rules for visiting the official refugee camp Zaatiri had become stricter. So although I never saw it myself, my friends told me that Zaatiri was the size of Hamilton. And at that time, it was refuge to over 156,000 people. That's more than the population of Tauranga, more than 3 times the population of Invercargill. The church my friend was working with was a small congregation, 30, 40 adults. But their church carried a list of over 1,000 Syrian families that they were helping. These families were folk who had enough means to rent a home or a shack outside the camp. I have to say, before the Arab Spring, my observation of Arab Christians in the 14 months I lived in Jordan and the 8 years I served running short-term teams in Jordan or Egypt, my observation was that many evangelical Christians were ambivalent. even nervous or suspicious towards Arab Muslims. They always held this fine, unseen line of politeness and distance, holding each other at arm's length. But this crisis in Syria to the north brought opportunities for grace and change to the church in Jordan and Lebanon and Egypt alike. As Syrians fled, mainly Muslims initially, they arrived in Jordan seeking help from mosques. But the mosques had no help for them. Instead, the mosques sent them to the local churches. Many local churches partnered with UN NGOs, so were the location of aid for refugees. A new refugee arriving in the town would come to their church to register. This would mean that they would get delivered to their home the bare minimums for survival: a mattress, a blanket and a pillow for every person in the household, a gas burner oven along with a gas bowl and a gas hose. This allowed the teams that my friend was on to visit the homes and bring them food parcels and initiate relationships with these folks. I had the privilege of shadowing that church and my friend's team for about a week, and I came away in awe of the mammoth task that they had set themselves, and so much respect for how the Lord was using them to serve those folk who were looking for sanctuary. One of the church's elders, Samir, stood out the most to me. He drove the truck that we used to distribute the household essentials. Invariably, at each stop, our truck would be swarmed by folks who wanted to know how they could get the same help. Getting around the town was a slow business, as you can well imagine. At every stop, we got swamped. But Samir dealt with each person patiently, rechecking his lists, pointing them to where to get help, stopping to give assistance as he could. His compassion for these folk was so evident and genuine and deep. It was clear that during this ministry, in the midst of this crisis, in the midst of this overwhelming task, he could see Jesus. The church and my friends continue to work among the refugees today. That little church making a difference in the lives of so many far beyond their number and capacity, serving their community and strangers among them. The church is at its best when she is a place of service, and the communities in which your churches are situated benefit from apprentices. My home church in Amman is where I based my short-term teams. Over a period of 10 years, I really do feel like I'm coming home when I am with them. My church there has had increasing attention from the West, and they partner in projects and training with the likes of Willow Creek, and the senior pastor there has travelled to many parts of Europe, Canada and the States for ministry and conferences. When I last visited them in 2015 to run my summer team, they had increased their involvement in refugee work. The refugees were right down in Amman. And they were now supporting about 300 Syrian Muslim families, as well as a group of Iraqi refugees, Christian refugees. The church ran a weekly meeting for refugees where mothers would come and redeem their coupons, listen to a sermon, and then collect their food parcel and sift through clothes that they could use for their families. That year, our summer team coincided with Ramadan. Ramadan is the month of fasting observed by Muslims. The Ramadan fast requires a person to abstain from food, water and sexual relations from the time the sun rises until the time it officially sets. Some devout Muslims will not even swallow their own saliva during the fast, choosing to spit it out instead. The Arabic word for breakfast is iftar. So the name of the evening meal that breaks the fast during Ramadan is called iftar. It is common to be invited as a special guest to have iftar with Muslim friends. The general etiquette is that you visit your Muslim friends and you take a gift for Ramadan, something like sweets or a dessert or chocolates. And then when it's Christmas time, they visit you. Our church had just completed a project of laying a play area after purchasing the neighbouring property. It was a good level space. So that year the church leadership decided that they would invite all the refugees, families that they served, as well as given a general invitation to anyone who wanted to join us for iftar. Christians don't observe iftar, only Muslims do. But the church were offering or hosting an iftar for anyone who wanted a meal. That was the first time our church had ever done something like that. We set up the place to cater for over 500 people. And we filled that space with those who came to share iftar. There were Jordanians, Palestinians, Egyptians and Syrians and others who came to enjoy the meal. Locals, refugees and even some from other suburbs. It was an amazing experience. The church giving on such a large scale to those around them in their community and to host the strangers and refugees among them without expecting anything in return. It was made even more special by that some of the Iraqi Christian refugees, themselves displaced by Arab and Kurdish Muslims, came and served alongside us. They came and served the tables, took food to these folk so that they could enjoy iftar. This is the church at her best, when she is a place of service, and the communities in which our churches are situated benefit from our presence. I don't have time to talk about how our own light party at Mangere Bridge, or our recent South Auckland Hub gathering, which we use as a contact event for local youth, or our basketball hoop at our new building, or even talk about Carey Cafe and their invitation and their initiatives to do good for Morningside, their neighbourhood, or talk about the ethnic leaders currently completing our ethnic ministry training course here at Carey. But they are all examples of the church at her best, where we are a place of serving and our communities are the ones that benefit from the grace that we have to give. For me, this is when the church is at its best, when she is a place of belonging and when she is a place of serving our communities. Then we are the precious oil on the head, running down upon the beard, on the beard of Aaron, running down over the collar of his robes. We, the church, will be like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord ordained his blessing, life evermore. Ole atua tātou whā, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.